So before I started riding motorcycles, I really wish someone had told me to wear earplugs. This is something that I do religiously now. You will not catch me riding a motorcycle without earplugs. And I found out the hard way after riding 2 months without my earplugs and noticing that I was starting to get some hearing damage. And it's not that my bike was super loud or I had like a crazy loud exhaust or whatever. Really, it's the wind noise. So I did some research when I first started riding, and I realized that prolonged exposure to wind noise, especially on the highway, can lead to tinnitus and hearing loss and hearing damage. So, man, the number one thing I want y'all to get away from this video is wear earplugs. It's actually super important, and you can still hear everything around you while you wear earplugs on your motorcycle. They sell earplugs with different levels of decibel attenuation. They will actually reduce the volume by different levels. So I highly recommend picking up some that may be reduced by 30 or 35 dBs. That way you can still hear everything around you in traffic. You can hear your bike still, and you're protecting your ears. You don't want to play around with hearing damage. It can happen very quickly, and it can ramp up over time, and all of a sudden you'll have serious hearing problems. Earplugs are also really cheap. You can buy a bunch of disposable ones. Those are the ones I prefer. There's some moldable ones that are pretty decent, but I've found that using a Cardo headset, the moldable ones kind of push on my ears a little bit much. And I will say too, wearing earplugs, you can still hear your Cardo systems or your communicator systems just fine as well too. So biggest thing I wish someone had told me before I started riding motorcycles was to wear earplugs. But I have a ton of other things in today's video, so stick around. The next thing I wish somebody told me was that cars always win, and you gotta take it easy when you're riding on a motorcycle. A lot of people, when they start riding, they exhibit road rage and they feel slighted by people who cut them off and those sort of things. But you have to remember, in a traffic situation, a 3,000 or 4,000 pound vehicle, if they want to just swerve into you, is going to knock you off your bike, and you are going to have a really bad day. So if you're in traffic, you got to take it easy on your motorcycle, more than just riding like you're invisible and all that good stuff like we always mention here on the channel. The thing you want to do most is ride zen. If somebody cuts you off, if somebody doesn't see you, there's no point in getting all agitated and revving and honking your horn. If nothing happened to you, if nobody hit you and you're fine, I can understand that you're probably agitated, you're probably full of adrenaline, like you nearly got into an accident, but you have to recognize that you're like, oh, I'm fine, nothing happened to me, so take a couple deep breaths, take it easy. Because the last thing you want to do is to aggravate someone in a vehicle when they can just swerve into you and kill you instantly, pretty much. So cars always win. Take it easy, my dudes. Wearing a ramen noodle hoodie and having an afro feels pretty chaotic to me, but riding the Street Fighter V4S pinned at 15,000 RPM is even more chaotic, and that dream could be your reality. This motorcycle is being given away, and March 17th is the very last day you have to get entered to win it. Now, I've done something special here for all my squids out there. Go to shop.yamanoob.co and you'll get yourself 10x entries on every dollar you spend, no matter what you buy, no code necessary. So don't miss out. March 17th is the very last day you have to get entered to win this thing. I would hate if you didn't get your entries locked in and had a chance to win this fantastic motorcycle. Head over to shop.yamanoob.co and don't delay. The next thing I wish somebody had told me is that even small bikes are pretty fast. Even little motorcycles like Ninja 400s or RC 390s, they have pretty decent acceleration. A lot of these bikes can do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds or less, and for sport car guys, you're probably like, whoa, that's pretty good. Now, granted, the top speed of these bikes are pretty low, right? Like your entry-level beginner bike, that sort of thing, may only get to about 115, 120 miles per hour, whereas a sports car can do 160, 165, that sort of thing. So the acceleration is actually pretty good on little bikes. Don't discount them, and don't feel like you're not going to be a good motorcyclist if you jump on a little bike and you're actually a little intimidated by the speed that they can create and the acceleration they can create. It takes a little bit for your brain to get used to how much these bikes can accelerate and how nimble they are too. Motorcycles can really kind of swerve and turn on a dime. That doesn't mean that they can carve corners faster than cars, because cars have more grip, but at the same time, I think someone had told me that little bikes are pretty quick. I probably wouldn't have believed them when I first started riding. I bought an entry-level kind of beginner motorcycle because I wanted to take it easy, but even the little bikes can get you in trouble and can be pretty fast if you're not careful. This is one that a lot of people don't want to hear, but I feel like we need to talk about it, and I wish that someone had told me this, and I kind of knew this when I started, but it's the fact that no other mod is as important as your tires. We can sit there all day long and think about, you know, the exhaust we're going to put on the bike and a quick turn throttle and a new master cylinder, but really the only thing that matters most, besides a rider mod and actually extracting performance out of the machine with yourself, are the tires, right? They're the thing that contacts the ground. They're the thing that accentuates and allows you to grip the road. So if you have a set of tires that are old or crusty or dry rotted or all that stuff, there's no performance mods you can make because the tires are the limiting factor. There's so many amazing tire options out there nowadays. There are tires now that are street spec that you can drag knee in the wet with. I actually did that on Bridgestone's S22 out at Jerez in 2019 on a BMW S1000RR. These tires are incredible and they'll do so much. Track day warriors as well are often reluctant to admit that a DOT set of tires are perfectly good for all of their applications, like a Q3 or a Q4 even from Dunlop if you really want to get spicy. Any of the Pirelli Rosso 2s or 3s, those are plenty capable when it comes to performance on the track and way over capable when it comes to performance on the road. The other thing I want to mention too, kind of related to this that I wish someone had told me, is that if you're just clocking on, you know, kind of highway mile, street mile sort of things, the thing you really want to do is get a set of sport touring tires. That's going to make a big difference for your riding because they're going to last a whole lot longer and just be a whole lot better too. Sport touring tires can typically last twice, if not 3 times as long as a traditional soft compound sport-oriented track day kind of tire. So if you're looking for longevity, you can still grip a ton with sport touring tires and have a great time while you do it too. The other point I want to make for today's video is that motorcycling is a craft. You must practice when it comes to motorcycling. There is no set level of skill or experience you gain and you're just kind of tapped out. You should always be learning and evolving, and I wish someone had told me that there's never going to be a point you get to motorcycling and you're just set in stone with it, right? You're just at that experience level, you're just feeling good. You should always be trying to learn and adapt with your motorcycle riding. Because the moment you decide that you don't want to keep learning and evolving is the moment that unfortunately you're going to stagnate as a rider, and then you're going to end up being one of those guys in the comment section being like, oh, I've ridden for 15 years, I know about this, this, and this. But if you're not constantly evolving your skill set over time, you're not really developing as a rider. It is very easy to become complacent and to just know how to operate a bike and not to grow and evolve and adapt. We can become truly great riders by crafting ourselves into them, by treating the bike as a craft. So this is a really specific one, but I think a lot of you out there will resonate with this, my fellow bald men out there. Helmet hair is definitely a thing with motorcycling. I think women with longer hair and men with longer hair can attest to that. But shaved heads in motorcycling is a very specific thing I wanted to mention that I wish somebody had told me about. The thing I want to talk about is there's this in-between spot when you have, like, not a fully buzzed head, but not a fully kind of like rough kind of hair head. It's this weird like 5 o'clock shadow hair that you have that can be very uncomfortable with certain helmets. It can kind of push the liners up in weird ways and you can kind of create little pinch points and stuff. So I've found that wearing a little skull cap or keeping your hair at a little bit longer length can be really nice to ride motorcycles, or have it totally shaved down all the time. If you're in that in-between mode, that 5 o'clock shadow head, sometimes it can like move the liner up on your head a lot, so I'd recommend a little cap or something if you are a rider who is bald and is looking to get into the sport. So keeping in line with what I mentioned about smaller bikes, I really wish someone had told me how fast bikes are really fast. Fast motorcycles are just crazy fast, and you don't really appreciate that until you've ridden one of them and truly wrung it out a little bit. Now, I've become a little bit jaded over the years. You know, I've ride a lot of fast bikes. You start to become normalized to it. But the fact that you can go and buy for under $20,000 a motorcycle that'll do under 10 seconds in the quarter mile is insane. It's almost to the point where you kind of think, should this be legal? But then that's a whole conversation we don't want to get into on today's video. But the fast bikes are just outrageously fast. A common garden variety leader bike is going to walk 99% of things on the road nowadays. If you're out there racing your buddies in cars, you won't even know that they've really gone if you're on a 1000cc bike, let alone a Turbo Hayabusa or an H2 or something like that. So fast motorcycles, it might surprise you, are really fast. It's not like jumping in from like a Miata to an M3 or something. It's like going from an N3 to an intercontinental ballistic missile. Motorcycles are crazy fast, especially the fast ones. And the last point I want to make today that I wish somebody had told me because I was a little self-conscious about it is that nobody knows that your beginner sport bike is a beginner sport bike. New motorcycles look really cool nowadays. I'm thinking about stuff like the Ninja 400 with the KRT graphics, or a new R3 with the 60th anniversary livery. There's so many great looking beginner bikes that people won't even know or care that they're small CCs. They'll just see a bike that looks cool. That's all that the average person sees. They can identify a crotch rocket, or a bike with fairings and plastics and those sort of things that has a flashy paint job, or a cruiser or a more retro style bike. That's the only two things that they know. So don't become self-conscious about your choice to ride a beginner bike and think that other people are going to like mentally clown you for like, oh, he's on a little bike. He's just, oh, he couldn't get the big bike and blah, blah, blah. Nobody even knows the difference. If you show up with the Ninja 400 KRT edition livery, that bike looks awesome. Everyone's going to think it's awesome. You have a motorcycle. You're instantly cooler than other people who don't have a motorcycle, if that makes sense, if you're in those kind of circles. I think that just by riding, you are going to feel cooler and maybe be perceived as cooler depending on the circles that you run. I'm not saying that getting a motorcycle is going to instantly make you cooler, but depending on where you live and kind of who the people you know are in your life, you may find yourself feeling a little bit cooler by owning a motorcycle, because it is pretty cool. Not many people do it, and it's an activity that requires a lot of commitment, skill, and dedication to achieve. So guys, those are the things that I wish somebody had told me before I started riding motorcycles. Let me know what you think down below in the comments of things you wished people had told you before you started. And yeah, make sure you get entered to win that Ducati Street Fighter V4S. That's a pretty spicy little meatball, and you're not going to want to miss it. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yammy Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yammy Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yammy Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yammy Noob.